There's a couple of things going on right now that I'm seeing coaches telling their students to turn off their ads, to pause them, that the iOS update is incomplete, ruin, and also that that the holiday season is coming up. And so a lot of people should be turning off their ads. And so I just wanted to do this training for my private students. And I thought I would share it with you guys too, because this is something that is going to make the difference between those of us who have digital businesses that are going to make it in 2022 from the people whose businesses are going to unfortunately take a hit. And so I'm going to share the training that I did with my students. I'm just going to give you kind of the rundown. Now, this is something that I work with my students inside my premium program. It's $297 a month. We have 14 calls every single month. I want to make sure that my students are prepared, not only with ads, because this is not just an ad strategy. There is some organic stuff involved too. And I'm trying to get my private clients to understand that it's an entire ecosystem. It's not just about how to increase conversions and all of that fun stuff. It has to make up an ecosystem. We have to start thinking of our business in a way that offline business owners look at their business. And so there's 3 different scenarios that you should be at right now when it comes to your Facebook advertising journey. And I will say this, we should have started ads yesterday. So if you're not running ads yet, now is the second perfect time to get started, because we should have already been running them. But if you're not running ads, that's okay. There's an easy and simplified way that you could do it. So there's 3 different scenarios that I just prepped my students for, okay? So scenario number 1 is maybe your CPL, your cost per lead is high, but you're still profitable. Scenario number 2, your CPL is high, your cost per lead is high, but you're not profitable. And then scenario number 3, you're not running any ads. So let's start there, because probably most people are probably not running ads. And so if you're not running ads, I'm going to give you guys a fail-proof way that you could start getting into the ad game now. Because here's the thing. Again, I said a while ago, you should have started running ads yesterday. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that you should be running, highly cost conversion ads. We want to make sure that we are doing it in a way that is going to work with where you are in your business right now. I'm not going to take one of my students who's never spent a dime on Facebook advertising and start having them run webinar ads at $100 a day. That's not what we're doing here. And so if you're not running any ads, this is the least that you should be doing right now. And that's running power content at $5 a day. Okay. Now, power content is literally just high value videos that consist of a headline, promise of value, the meat and potatoes, and then we're going to have a non-gated call to action. So for instance, if I was doing a video right now, I would say, hey, there's a technical part to setting up this entire strategy. Drop me a line below and I will send you a cheat sheet on how to put it all together. The reason that I'm doing that is whenever I'm going to place these power content videos, people are going to start dropping comments. Now, I tell my students that the fastest path to cash is by having conversations. And so this strategy right here is created to drive conversations. Now, here's a little hack. This power content strategy is actually not an ad strategy. It's actually an organic strategy. So every time that my students, I prep them to go live, I make them go live with this exact formula. This exact formula organically made me my first and second 6 figures before I ever touched ads. Ads are just organic content with money on them. And if we start thinking about that and we start utilizing what are we doing organically and we just simply put money on that, it's going to work. It's fail proof. Okay. So this is the very first scenario. Now, inside my premium program, I have what's called an audience builder strategy where I literally work with just students on just setting this up right here and getting the right messaging and everything. So if you don't have a funnel or anything, this is the strategy. Now, even my students who have a funnel, this is the first strategy that I tell them to implement, because if you can literally perfect your messaging and conversations with this strategy, you're not going to have any issues selling people on a webinar, because you've had all of these conversations. So that's scenario number 3. So if you're not running any ads, this is going to be the strategy that I want you to get started on. Now, scenario number 2 is, what if your cost per lead is high and you're no longer profitable? Now, one of the things I tell my students is we want at least 500 leads into your funnel. And then in addition to that, you're going to want your warm traffic from your power content. That's why it's super important that this is the first strategy that I have my students put together, because what we're going to start to do is build an ecosystem. So if you look at this diagram, this is from my training that I did with my students today. This is what I call my client accelerator ecosystem. It's made up of several reverse organic strategies. So if you take a look at the diagram on the left, we are sending people to an opt-in, okay? Or maybe you are sending people to a low ticket offer, whichever, it does not matter. We're sending people to an offer, okay? So if your cost per purchase is too high, this will apply too. So if your cost per lead is too high, and we already have at least 500 leads into the funnel, we can pause our ads, because then what we're going to do is we're going to work middle of funnel. That's where we need to work on. If our cost per lead is high and we're not profitable, we need to squeeze as much profits out of the leads that we already have, so that we can then go and optimize top of funnel to bring the cost per lead down. But my focus with my students right now, because of the rising ad cost, if they're not profitable with the lead cost that they're getting and they have 500, if they don't have 500, I do not tell them to pause their ads. I say, keep going until we have that 500. Yes, you're going to pay more, but we're going to make up for it in middle of funnel. And so we're going to do it with this reverse organic strategy. Okay. Now, even scenario number 3, even if their CPL is high and they're still profitable, I'm still having them execute this reverse organic ecosystem. Okay. So here's how it works. Okay. So on the right, you see where it says Trinity Post in 2 steps. That is their power content strategy on their business page and also on their personal profile. I have them also use their personal profile for business, because that is where a lot of them get the most engagement. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We are marrying organic and paid inside this ecosystem. We're bringing in organic into a paid strategy, and then we're taking people who are paid into an organic strategy. That's why I like to call it the reverse organic strategy, is we're leveraging paid ads to bring people into our organic ecosystem. So if we look on the left-hand side of this, if we're sending people to an opt-in, let's just say a webinar, and people are opting into the webinar, they're immediately going to get a story ad that's going to invite them to follow us on Instagram. Because what I want to train my people to do is, because of all of the changes that are happening, and hey, the pixel is not going to be around forever. The pixel has been a luxury. And so what I'm doing is I'm prepping my students to not only leverage the pixel while we have it, but I'm also teaching my students how to leverage on platform actions. And so what we're going to do is, once people are opting into our content, we also want to show them content that's going to get them to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that's going to follow us on Instagram, and also binge watch content on our Facebook profile. Okay. So this is how that ecosystem is going to work. Okay. So not only when people opt into our webinar, they're not only going to get emails, they're also going to get, we are going to use the pixel. We're going to leverage the pixel. If they opt into our webinar, we are going to send them something that I call the Fire for Ad sequence. That's going to get them to the next step of the offer. But remember, once that pixel goes away, and I'm not saying if, it's like when, that's in the works, but I want to make sure that all of my students are prepared. And the way that we're doing this is using a reverse organic. We're leveraging ads and we are turning paid traffic into organic traffic, utilizing and leveraging what Facebook and YouTube gives us access to right now, which is retargeting. We don't know how long that's going to last. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are taking all of these actions, because think about this. Okay. Think about this. If we can have more conversations, we can have more conversions, right? Because conversations are the fastest path to cash. It's conversations. And so if we could leverage, like, think about this. If we can leverage these $5 ads, and I see this happen with my students all the time. is they end up having more conversations from these $5 ads than they do from a webinar ad, because think about this. Here, if they have a webinar funnel, that webinar funnel is standing in the way of them having a conversation. They have this big funnel to go through. Here, it's a lower barrier. If I can run a video ad and get people to drop a line below, that gives me a direct access to them versus into Messenger. This is all a process. Like, we understand, like, here, this is going to be an organic 2-step, well, a client 2-step. And then here, we're going to use Facebook ads. We're using Facebook ads in both of these, but this is the shortest path to that conversation. Okay. So hopefully this has been helpful. This is just one of the things that I have opened up my premium program. My premium program is not just about placing Facebook ads. It's about how can we leverage Facebook ads in order to have more conversations with our ideal audience and pull them one step closer to the funnel. Like that reverse organic, I do that with people who are visiting my $7 program and not buying. I'm pulling them into subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm pulling them into following me on Instagram. I'm pulling them into friending me on Facebook so that we could have more organic conversations, because that is the fastest path to cash. And so if you want me to personally help you set up this entire ecosystem, there is 2 spots left inside my premium program. I graduated 2 students last week, and so I have 2 available spots. So if you want them, go to the link that I put inside this document and fill out the form, and we'll see if we can make it happen. So hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of that. Even if you don't join my premium program, go through this video step by step. If you set everything up, it sounds more complicated than it actually is. All we're doing is we're using Facebook advertising in order to have conversations with people organically. That's it. So hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of that, and I will see you guys on the inside.